Some carry hate. We carry the largest trans pride flag to ever be flown in a national park and unfurled it on the side of El Cap to prove a point, that trans is natural.
Please, tell me what's natural about having to wear a wig and tons of eye makeup to try and get people to treat you like a woman.
The Trump administration and transphobes would love to have you believe that being trans is unnatural, but species that can transition sexes can be found on every continent and in every ocean on planet Earth.
That had to be the most disingenuous analogy that I've ever heard. Show me a human male that's become female spontaneously without spending like $100,000 in the operating room. Well, even the surgeries don't change their biology, and just because certain animals can do things doesn't mean that humans can do those things. Some animals aren't sexually dimorphic and the females are just as strong as the males. That's not humans though. There are a lot of differences between the sexes. I mean, I don't think I've seen an analogy this bad since the croissant analogy.
If trans women aren't women, then is this big croissant not a croissant? Of course it's a croissant. It's made out of butter and dough just like any other croissant.
Right, a big croissant and a small croissant are still both croissants. Except that's not what's happening here. You're not a big croissant saying that you're a small one, you're a taco saying, I identify as a pastry.
So before I demolish this delicious and very valid pastry, repeat after me. Big croissants don't affect me in the slightest.
Yeah, that's not the case. In fact, that's exactly everyone's problem and why people have so much energy against transactivism. We were all just out here minding our own business, and then a bunch of activists started inserting themselves into everything and saying, you have to treat us how we demand you treat us, or you lose your job. This sort of extortionist behavior is why people are mad at the LGBT crowd.
I'm actually non-binary and use they them pronouns. I definitely could see that. In the best way possible, you look like you'd be non-binary. Slay, they. You realize that isn't a compliment, right?
I guarantee you that when people say that, 99% of the time it's not meant to be a compliment. And that's because as soon as you see the wacky hair color and the nose ring, oh wait, this person actually doesn't have a nose ring. Shocking. But when regular people see the wacky outfits, they know they're about to deal with a very difficult or annoying person. Or a narcissist. I mean, there are just so many examples of people with narcissistic personality disorder being gassed up by every major corporation for identifying as LGBT. And everyone hates stuff like this. From Today USA, women want to be her, men want to be with her. Dylan Mulvaney, the true definition of beauty and grace. Bro, Dylan Mulvaney doesn't even want to be Dylan Mulvaney. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of trans people out there who just want to mind their own business and go on with their lives. In fact, the right to be able to mind their own business was originally what the LGBT movement was pushing for. And I think that's an idea that most Americans these days would have no problem supporting. However, the activists, not the normie LGBT people, I'm specifically talking about the activist part of this community, constantly display the most self-centered and entitled behavior. And it's not transphobic or bigoted to point out when someone's being a self-absorbed asshole. Let's go back to that image. Women want to be her. Yeah, except for all the women who were pissed off at Dylan's woman face behavior. In fact, people were so mad at Dylan that Anheuser-Busch almost had to give up the Bud Light brand. Men want to be with her. No, they don't. Straight men don't. The second they find out you're trans, you're gonna get ghosted.
This video is for straight men and straight men only. I'm sorry, but how in the world could you not like me? Yes, I'm a trans woman, I'm a doll. Like, what is so different about dating me than a cis woman? I can do everything that she can.
Except have children. Did you notice the narcissistic, I'm so great behavior? That's why people don't like you. The guy I was on a date with just found out that I was trans. Why is he just finding out on the date? Why wasn't this disclosed on the dating app? I mean, they were definitely using a dating app where photos can be edited and the voice chat wasn't used. Why is it so hard to date straight men when you're just a normal trans girl who makes content for the internet? Well, there you go. Stop catfishing people and maybe you'll find someone who actually likes you. I mean, it's crazy how many trans people think it's perfectly fine to start a relationship out by lying by omission.
What are you even really disclosing? What is there to disclose? There's no deception. When you're dating someone, you don't have to disclose every single thing about yourself up front. That's the fun of it. You get to learn about someone new.
Considering that the status of your sexuality is a big deal for a relationship, that definitely should be disclosed before you even go on a date. Though in this case, I actually wouldn't worry because I don't think anyone's being fooled by you.
He shows off his results of facial feminization surgery. What is your reaction? Again, just reading the tweets. Don't get mad at me. Let's take a look at this. Bro, I'm gonna keep it a bug. You gotta go back and ask for a refund. Like, this was not a complete job. This is just incomplete homework.
Though to be honest, some trans people are more feminine than others, and it's harder for normies to tell. So in the case where someone is intentionally tricked and any form of sexual contact happens that they would otherwise not consent to, I think that should be considered sexual assault. These people are all about consent, right? Well, you can't consent if you don't understand the terms of the deal, and if you're trying to trick someone into consenting to something they otherwise would not consent to if they had full knowledge of the terms, then that is very much the mentality of a rapist. You aren't fooling anyone. Everyone knows that you aren't disclosing this information right away for a reason. And really, the best way to continue to take power away from these people so they can't threaten us anymore is to just start calling stuff what it is. All the bullying that trans activists have been doing can completely be defeated if we just stick to reality. Which brings us to a trans TikTok influencer who goes by Lilly Tino. Well, this person has already been brought up, but now I have a bigger point to make. If you haven't seen any of the content, this type of stuff is what Tino is famous for.
The bottom is from Thailand.
Coconut bread from Thailand.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am. Sorry, my bad. And the middle one is from India.
Thank you. Just like totally sucks the joy out of this bread tower. Makes me want to immediately like leave because I no longer feel like safe here. It's like, oh, my guard now has to be up. I'm not going to enjoy this bread as much because my guard is up. We should be able to go places and not have to worry. I don't think I really want this bread tower, actually. I think I'd rather have the check.
Did anyone catch what went wrong here? I actually had to watch this multiple times, so let's do a quick repeat.
Coconut bread from Thailand.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am. Sorry, my bad.
So Tino is mad because the waiter said sir. Well, it's kind of hard to call you a ma'am when you look like a sir, and Tino knows that people will make this mistake, which is why tons of misgendering videos are on Tino's channel.
I just want to tell you that the person who gave me this called me sir.
What?
Call me sir.
Oh.
It's just like, it kind of just hurts a lot to get called sir. Thank you. I'm not sir. Nothing like a good misgendering. It is a knife in the gut when I get called sir. It hurts more when it's not intentional because it means like this is sir to him.
Yeah, it's such a knife to the gut that you keep intentionally putting yourself in these situations and film them happening over and over again. Even with the feigned politeness, everyone knows that you're doing this on purpose. And not just that, but Tino has openly talked about not actually caring about being called sir.
Look, I don't need your approval to love my face. But honestly, keep these comments coming because they really don't bother me in the way that you think they bother me, and they boost engagement on my stuff, so keep at it.
A bunch of people saying sir in the comments is what's being responded to, so now we know that Tino bullying people is completely about getting attention. But let's go back to that bread video for a second.
We're supposed to say friend or just not use gendered language. It's like a pretty big thing that Disney has done. Nothing was wrong with bread. I just don't want it anymore. Just because they apologize doesn't mean she doesn't feel sad or offended. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, if you've accidentally ever hurt someone and say, I'm so sorry, it was an accident, do you expect them to be like, oh, it was an accident? Of course, no problem whatsoever. All of that hurt is now undone. That's not how it works.
Sorry about what happened.
It's okay. I would love to pay for the drink, please.
No, the drink is on me too, so...
You don't have, are you sure?
You're good, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Now you can see why Tino does this. Any narcissist would treat waiters like that if they got free food and special treatment from it. You do understand they had to throw all that food out, right? However, I don't know if you guys caught this, but the waiter had an accent, meaning that English is not his first language, so he probably is not all that privy to the pronoun BS because it's esoteric speech. I mean, if there's any indication that he doesn't understand what's going on, it's that he immediately says sir again after being told to say ma'am. And the whole subtext of this is that this guy spends all this time learning English, and then Tino is out here threatening his livelihood over a minor mistake. That's why you got the free drink. It's because he's afraid of a sociopath like you causing a scene and getting him fired. Especially considering that this occurred at Disneyland, so you know that if the waiter stands up for himself, the company is not going to back him. So really this person is just making money off of bullying foreigners and using transgenderism as a shield after being abusive, because that's what this is, it's abuse. And abuse seems to be kind of a foundational strategy of trans activists. Tino has a lot of this type of content, as well as stuff that progressively gets creepier.
Made it into Disney World. I don't really know what the deal is with bathrooms. You know, Florida is really conservative. I don't know what the rules are. Trans women are allowed to be in women's bathrooms, but I'm about to go and use the bathroom because I have to tinkle. If I get stopped, I guess. But I'm a woman, so I'm going to use the women's bathroom, and being in Florida or being in California or wherever isn't going to stop me.
For one, it's already cringe to be a Disney adult. Two, not only is there this fetishizing with trans people of lying about their status in the hopes of tricking straight men, but there's also a fetishizing of using women's bathrooms. Here's a whole office of biological males filming in the women's bathroom. And I can't imagine how unnerving it must be for women to have to share this space with people who are obviously biological men.
Oh, I go where I please. I will continue to go into women's restrooms, women's locker rooms, women's spaces, because I am a woman, whether you like it or not, and there's nothing you can do about it. I go where I please. And so far, nobody's had the guts to even try and stop me.
No one has tried to stop you because it's a bunch of women who have like half your strength, and they don't want to risk you being a psycho who will violently beat them if they speak up about you using the women's bathroom.
Doing credit. You're gonna give me my fucking money back.
Excuse me, sir. There's a young man in here. And you watch him out.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
They aren't protesting because they're afraid, and what really should happen is that people should just stop going to places with mixed bathrooms. Oh, and speaking of borderline predator behavior, Tino loves to go to Disneyland to explain how transgender surgery works with kids in the background and child-friendly metaphors.
Last summer, I got my cake pops removed, and the plan up until recently was to get my marshmallow wand reconfigured into a marshmallow tunnel. The outside of the wand is what becomes the inside of the tunnel.
This person needs to be put on a watch list. I think no one would be shocked if there are some skeletons in Tino's closet. These topics aren't appropriate for young kids.
Hi friends! Today we're going to talk about something super important. What it means to be transgender. It's a big word, but I promise that it's easy to understand. Ready to learn? The first thing I want you to do is close your eyes. Now think, do you feel like a boy, a girl, or a little bit of both?
For those of you who don't know what's going on, this is a parody of Miss Rachel, who is a very popular creator for very young kids. A friend of mine has a 2-year-old, and I caught an episode while he was visiting where she was teaching toddlers how to say no, so that was great. Well, maybe it's annoying to parents, but probably very useful if they ever meet someone like Lilly Tino. And I'm not just making allegations here. Tino literally has an OnlyFans account and advertises that account in the same area where the videos targeted at children can be viewed. How is this not a crime? Can you see why people are mad now? Stuff like this happens over and over again, and this information gets pushed on younger and younger people way before it's age appropriate, and now they have stuff like this.
Applications are open for Brave Trails 2025. Whether you're new or returning, get ready for an unforgettable summer in California, New York, or Georgia. Brave Trails is the summer camp for LGBTQ+ youth ages 12 to 17, with creative programming, gender-neutral housing, and affirming spaces to be your true self.
Wait, so you're gonna put a bunch of boys and girls with cameras and mixed housing? They're going to change and sleep in the same area with an age difference from 12 to 17? You don't see a problem with that? Unfortunately, I don't think they do. And what's funny is that I'm old enough to remember that back in 2020, I made a video about them medically transitioning kids, and I got gaslit like crazy with a bunch of wokies in the comments saying, no, they're just socially transitioning kids. They don't get medical treatment until they're adults. At that point, there were only a handful of news stories about people medically transitioning under 18, but just 5 years later, medically transitioning kids has been completely normalized.
Estrogen treatment is irreversible and would make Josie sterile. But Josie and her mother never doubted it was the right thing until an unexpected conversation happened one afternoon.
But on the inside, where nobody else can see?
Yeah.
Are you a boy or are you a girl?
Maybe I'm a boy inside and a girl outside.
Really?
Yeah, is that true?
Only you know the answer to that.
Sometimes I think I'm a boy, sort of, but I want to be a girl.
Yeah.
Dr. Olson had a decision.
You are in the perfect place to start on blockers.
And she promises to begin giving her estrogen, female hormones, in 2 years.
Around 13. That's what I think. You're not going to wait until 16 to start. You know that, okay?
A lot of times it strikes me that had this happened just 20 years ago,
Thank you.
I wouldn't have been able to give her blockers, and she would have had to go through male puberty. That terrifies me.
It's all done. Do you want a hug?
I don't know that she would have survived male puberty.
I'm not really sure how these people have it in their head that it's okay to allow a young child to make a permanent decision like that, especially considering that the child expressed pretty heavy doubt And maybe that's the best cue to not put your kid on life-altering medications when they turn 13.
Seems more like we're experimenting on children like the Nazis did, though.
It does seem a little suspect. I agree.
I mean, imagine if the Nazi scientist came forward and said, but the kids really want it.
The one thing that keeps me happy is that we're moving closer to a place where eventually people who do this are going to start getting punished for it, especially since Twitter got bought and stories like these aren't being suppressed anymore.
I had facial feminization surgery. I had sex reassignment surgery. I was on HRT for 17 years. Now I'm on a combo dose because I can't go off. I have multiple health conditions from transitioning young and for transitioning for so long.
This person has to take medication permanently despite regretting the transition because of the damage that transitioning caused. And it's sick because the activist community loves to pretend that none of these drugs like hormone blockers have any side effects.
So what was it for you that kind of woke you up to this isn't what I should have done?
I found out that homosexual transition was environmentally caused in almost every single case by childhood sexual assault or by internalized homophobia or failed boy syndrome. People are being lied to when they're being diagnosed. They're not being diagnosed with what actually causes the gender dysphoria. They're just being diagnosed with a symptom of a problem. And there are multiple problems that cause those symptoms. And when you don't appropriately diagnose people, you lead them into a life of ruin. All of these interventions are permanent, they're irreversible, and they lied to me.
I don't know if the numbers are that high, but sexual abuse history sure is commonly reported amongst people who transition, as well as symptoms of it like drug abuse and homelessness. Now, the age-old thing that the activists like to say is that you could end the life of a trans person by misgendering them. However, if you look at the studies that they cite, the people in the high-risk categories are very often drug abusers or homeless, and HRT is not going to fix that.
And they don't care about the people who are indoctrinated, who are harmed by this loosey-goosey system where you can walk into a therapist in 15 minutes and be given a gender dysphoria diagnosis.
Right, they don't care at all. I think when Lilly Tino makes a video dressed as Miss Rachel, that's not about educating people. It's about trying to find the next viral trend to build popularity and promote the OnlyFans account. I think these people rarely, if ever, talk about people who regret transitioning. In fact, I've heard rumors that on Reddit, such people are shunned from the transgender forums. But the nefarious part with kids is that kids are easily manipulated, will often do what they think will impress their parents, and they have no life experience. They've only been around for a few years, so how are they supposed to know at 11 what their desires are going to be at 30 or 40 or 50? Where are the adults? Adults are supposed to be around as advisors to prevent kids from doing stuff they might regret in the long term. In fact, as a society, I think it's people's responsibility to prevent those around them from making stupid decisions. A lot of people's dumb choices could be stopped if they didn't have a shitty friend group. You want people in your life who will sit you down and talk you through major decisions and give you corrective feedback. People need the feedback of others to know how to behave appropriately. It's something that I'm sure these narcissistic activists are missing in their lives. So let's do them all the favor of not appeasing their BS. Anyway, thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.